Formula One just cancelled 2 races, lost over $90 million, and left an entire month of the season completely empty. And now, they're trying to bring one of those races back, at the most dangerous moment possible. Saudi Arabia. A Grand Prix that was shut down because of a real conflict? Now being pushed to return, right at the end of the championship. That alone is massive. But here's what makes this unbelievable. If this decision goes through, the season won't just continue. It will be extended to the latest finish in modern Formula One history. Which means one thing. A completely new race, added when everything is already on the line. New points, new risks, new chaos. Because this isn't just a comeback. This is a last-second move that could decide the entire championship. Because this isn't just a comeback story. This is a rescue operation happening in real time. Now think about what actually happened. 2 races, gone. Bahrain, cancelled. Saudi Arabia, cancelled. An entire region, removed from the calendar almost overnight. And suddenly, Formula One is left with something it never wants. A gap. A 5-week gap, right in the middle of the season. No races. No momentum. No global spotlight. And in a sport built on constant attention, that's a problem. A big one. Because Formula One doesn't just rely on racing. It relies on rhythm. Every race builds into the next. Every weekend keeps fans engaged. Sponsors visible. Teams active. And when that rhythm breaks, everything slows down. Audience drops. Interest fades. Narratives lose strength. And that's exactly what happened here. For the first time in years, Formula One went silent. But here's where things start to shift. Because while the public saw cancellations, behind the scenes, something else started immediately. Negotiations. Discussions. Contingency plans. Because losing those races wasn't an option they were willing to accept long-term. Especially one of them. Saudi Arabia. Because this isn't just any Grand Prix. This is one of the most financially powerful races on the entire calendar. Over $65 million tied to a single event. That's not just revenue. That's leverage. That's influence over the entire structure of the sport. So the moment it was cancelled, the objective changed. Not if it comes back, but how and when. And that's when the most unexpected idea started gaining traction. Not replacing the race. Not moving it slightly. But bringing it back at the most critical moment possible. Right at the end of the season. Where the pressure is highest. Where the championship is decided. And where one extra race can change everything. And this is where the situation becomes something much bigger than just a calendar change. Because moving Saudi Arabia to the end of the season doesn't just fill a gap. It rewrites the final chapter completely. Now imagine the current structure. The season builds, race after race, toward a fixed ending. Teams plan months in advance. Development cycles. Engine usage. Driver strategy. Everything is calculated around a known number of races. But the moment you add one more, that entire structure breaks. Because now, every calculation is wrong. Every risk needs to be reconsidered. Every decision suddenly has a second consequence. And that's exactly why this move is so powerful. Because it doesn't just add a race. It adds uncertainty. Right at the worst possible time. Now take the championship fight. 2 drivers. Separated by just a few points. One mistake could decide everything. And just when it looks like the season is under control, a new race appears. A completely different challenge. A street circuit. High speed. Zero margin for error. That's not just pressure. That's chaos introduced at the final moment. But here's the detail that makes this even more controversial. Not every team wants this. Because some cars are built for circuits like Jeddah. Low drag. High straight line speed. Others are not. And if this race is suddenly added at the end, it doesn't just test performance. It shifts the balance. Potentially deciding the championship based on a track that wasn't even supposed to exist in that moment. And that's where the tension behind the scenes becomes real. Because now, this isn't just Formula One making a decision. It's teams watching carefully, questioning, calculating, trying to understand who benefits and who doesn't. Because in a sport this precise, nothing this big happens without consequences. But here's the part that changes everything. This decision doesn't just depend on Formula One. It depends on conditions that are still uncertain. The region must stabilize. Airspace must reopen fully. Security must be guaranteed at a level far beyond normal. And none of that is fully confirmed yet. Which means one thing. This entire plan is still a gamble. A calculated risk being built in real time. And if it works, it will reshape the season. But if it fails, It will expose just how far Formula One was willing to go to make it happen. And this is where the real pressure starts to build. Because at some point, this decision stops being theoretical. It becomes real. A yes or a no. And that moment is getting closer. Because the FIA and Formula One are not waiting until the end of the season. They need an answer months before. Logistics, freight, travel, broadcast. Everything has to be locked in early. Which means one thing. The decision will be made, while the championship is still wide open. And that creates a completely different kind of tension. Because teams won't just be reacting to results on track. They'll be reacting to a decision that could change the number of races left. Now imagine that timing. A driver leading the championship, thinking they have everything under control. Managing the gap. Avoiding risks. Playing the long game. And suddenly, confirmation arrives. One more race. Now everything changes. Because that lead might not be enough anymore. That strategy might not work anymore. That control disappears instantly. And on the other side, a driver chasing the title gets something they never expected. Another opportunity. Another chance to recover. Another moment to turn everything around. And that's why this decision is so powerful. Because it doesn't just affect the calendar. It affects psychology, confidence, risk, the way drivers approach every single lap from that moment forward. But here's the detail that makes this even more intense. If the race is confirmed, it won't just be added quietly. It will become the focal point of the entire season. Every headline, every discussion, every strategy leading toward that one weekend. Because everyone will know, that race could decide everything. And that's what transforms it. From a controversial return, into the defining moment of the championship. But here's the final layer. The one that connects everything we've seen. This isn't just about bringing a race back. It's about how far Formula One is willing to go to maintain its structure, its business, its global presence. Because this move comes after cancellations caused by real conflict, real risk, real uncertainty. And yet, the sport is still pushing forward, still searching for a way to make it happen. And that tells you something very important. In Formula One, there is always a solution being built behind the scenes. Always a plan. Always a move that no one sees coming. Until suddenly, it changes everything. So as the season continues, there's one final question building more and more pressure. Not whether Saudi Arabia will return, but what happens to the championship the moment it does. And this is where everything reaches its final, most unpredictable phase. Because once that decision is made, once Saudi Arabia is officially added back, there is no going back. The season changes permanently. From that moment on, every lap, every point, every move is leading to something that wasn't supposed to exist. An extra ending. A final test no one prepared for. And that's where the real pressure explodes. Because now, it's not just about performance. It's about endurance, mental strength, focus at the very limit. Because by the time the season reaches December, drivers are exhausted, teams are stretched, engines are at their limit. And yet, one more race is waiting. One more challenge in one of the fastest street circuits in the world. Walls close. Speeds extreme. No margin for error. And that's where championships break. But here's the part that makes this even more intense. This race, if it happens, doesn't just decide the title. It defines the entire season. Because everything that came before, every race, every strategy, every risk, leads to that final moment. A moment that was never supposed to be there. And that's what makes it so powerful. Because it turns the championship into something else. Not just a competition, but a story rewritten in real time. Now imagine the final scenario. Two drivers, separated by almost nothing, arriving in Saudi Arabia, knowing that everything comes down to this. A track where one mistake ends everything. A race born from chaos, now deciding the outcome of the entire season. That's not just pressure. That's history, being created under circumstances no one expected. And that's the final truth behind all of this. This was never just about bringing a race back. It was about control. About Formula One proving that even when the world disrupts the calendar, it can rebuild it, reshape it, and push forward, no matter what. Because in the end, this decision shows something very clear. The season doesn't end when it's supposed to. It ends when Formula One decides it does. And if Saudi Arabia returns, then the final chapter of this championship won't just be dramatic. It will be something no one saw coming. A finish defined not just by speed, but by the boldest decision the sport made all year. And this is where the story leaves one final realization. The one that changes how you see everything that just happened. Because in the end, this wasn't about Saudi Arabia. It wasn't about the calendar. It wasn't even about the championship. It was about power. The power Formula One has to reshape reality around it. Because think about it. A global conflict cancels 2 races. Airspace closed. Security risks everywhere. An entire region completely unavailable. And yet, months later, the sport is already building a way back in. Negotiating. Planning. Preparing. Not waiting for perfect conditions, but creating the moment where it becomes possible. And that tells you everything. Formula One doesn't just react to the world. It adapts faster than it. It moves around obstacles, finds openings, and turns uncertainty into opportunity. And that's exactly what this decision represents. Because bringing Saudi Arabia back isn't just a scheduling move. It's a statement that no disruption is permanent, no cancellation is final, and no season is ever truly fixed. But here's the part that matters most. Because once you understand that, you realize something even bigger. This won't be the last time. This isn't a one-off situation. This is the blueprint for how Formula One will operate from now on. Flexible, aggressive, always searching for a way to extend, to recover, to maximize, even when conditions say it shouldn't. And that changes how you watch the sport. Because from this moment forward, every calendar, every race, every decision comes with a question in the background. Is this final? Or is it just temporary? Because if this story proved anything, it's that in Formula One, nothing is ever truly locked in. Everything can change. Everything can move. Everything can be rewritten. And sometimes, those changes don't just affect one race. They decide an entire season. So when you look at the championship now, when you watch the battles, when you see drivers pushing to the limit, remember this. The biggest move of the season might not happen on track. It might happen in a room, behind closed doors, where one decision can change everything.